alisha sign my documents. And now the question is surely, mzee alikuwa mgonjwa, was he really in the frame of mind, or did he have what we call the capacity to make that decision, right? So those circumstances will really matter, and the courts will clearly look at those circumstances. What was even the age of the person? If you're under 18, you can't sign a contract in this country, by the way, okay? So if you're under 18, you have to get an adult to sign your contract for you. This could be your parent or your guardian. So mtoi akienda a sign contract ya kupewa 1 million, surely. Now can we come and say they don't even have capacity? So those are the things that the court will now look at. And the other thing, of course, will be the conduct of the parties. How have the parties conducted themselves? What was the behavior of the parties towards each other, and even with regards to the contract? Now, there are things, on Twitter the other day, someone asked me, if you lost your job, is that an act of God? What is this act of God? Lawyers, there are things lawyers like to say out here, act of God. And I see in contracts, force majeure. It depends on how you're reading it. Some will say force majeure. Others will say force majeure. Whatever it is, that's an act of God. Now, an act of God mostly is usually something that happens that is beyond the power of the parties. So let me give you an example. Let's say you've said, you're going to get me, I'm sending you to China. You're going to come with some, let's say 1,000 books for me. And they have to arrive here by Friday. Okay? Now, if you remember a few years ago, there was it Mount Helena or Mount Etna? One of those mountains, ikakuwa na volcanic eruption. So what happened is planes could not fly because there was a lot of ash in the air, and that ash would have messed up the engines, and so planes is in a drop. So if that person was to deliver by Friday, and there is that already happening, and planes have been grounded, you then cannot now surely expect that delivery will be done. Okay? Sometimes, maybe wanasemanga a tsunami occurred and the ship ikazama na ikaenda na container. All right? Can you then really come and say, Apple, no, I don't care. You have to fulfill the contract. Losing your job is not an act of God, guys. It's something that is foreseeable. It can happen to anyone, The dollar going up or down, that is not an act of God. Hizo ni vitu za kawaida. You understand? Acts of God are earthquakes. Earthquake imefanyika manze. You're supposed to go do a delivery in Nakuru. Earthquake imefanyika, there's no road. Now that's an act of God, okay? But these are factors that are outside the control of the parties. Like there's nothing you could have done to prevent that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about termination, because now this is the other important thing. Yes, you've got into a contract. Yes, maybe money has changed hands. Yes, obligations have been created. But now, how do you get out of that contract if you have to get out of it? And maybe sometimes you're selling land to someone for 1 million. Someone else comes and says, hey, I'll buy that land for 5 million. The contract has already been signed. Can you just sell to the guy for 5 million? Or do you just say, you're doing evil? Are there ways around it? So this is Sheria Dive on Power Radio, where we demystify the law. We make the law easy and simple to understand, because remember, whether you know the law or not, it knows you. Na ile kitu utaki ni sheria ikujue manze.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio. Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
kupitia chini. Nani yakoeraga songa nisugulia. Toa Kenya kwanyu era mamu wanyu. Teto semaniria hado kanithaine. Ateto semaniria hado prayer group ine. Narosio kago tora guito okageidia yera wairo nane oe akora gwale monoki onake oe kora gonie demonoki oh ikeda kairetu karasina bisa
Irosh Maheni. That's a song by Irosh talking about liars and lying. And today we talk about how do you make sure the liars don't trap you and con you. One of those ways is through a written contract. Now, there's a very, very important clause in contracts that you should always ensure there is in your contract. And that is what we call the termination clause. Basically, the termination clause asks the question, under what conditions can this contract be set aside? Or what needs to happen for it to be set aside? Or in what situations can I exercise my right to set aside this contract? All right? Now, of course, number one, contracts can come to an end by expiration, right? There are some contracts that have a time limit. So, for instance, if you're selling land to someone, they bring you the documents, everything, you pay them the money they've given you, you go, you transfer the land, now it's in your name. That contract is over, it's done, all right? It has no more obligations. Unless now, one day down the road, you discover, hey, hiyo shamba hata ikuwa hiyo jamaa kuuza. Hello, all those guys are on Kirima's land. That happens, all right? But expiration simply means that the time has ended. Maybe the contract was for 1 year, it's over. Hiyo imeisha. Some of you who are employed on fixed-term contracts, you find your contract is for 2 years. 2 years ikiisha, it's been real. Kila mtu ende njia yake, all right? So this only works for contracts that have a fixed date, all right? Now, the other way is by breach, right? You can terminate when there's a breach. And breach simply means that the other side does something or fails to do something that they were meant to do, all right? They fail to do something they were meant to do, or they do something that they were not meant to do, all right? So any action like that, if let's say a party fails to fulfill their obligations, let's say you've paid the deposit for that land, and then these guys have not given you copies of the documents for you to go and do a search, etc. That is a breach. Sawa sawa. Now, the other thing is that sometimes you will find that people get into an agreement, all right? But you discover that, hey, this person, they think they were telling me they're going to do, they actually are unable to do it. They have no capacity to do that thing, all right? And that we usually call it as a fraudulent misrepresentation, okay? Where someone has misrepresented. Msa amekuja akasema, hey, niko na hiyo uwezo. Knowing very, very well they did not have that uwezo, all right? Or sometimes it can be negligent misrepresentation, where you are not aware, but that the information you're giving was false, but it's false. You're just negligent about it, okay? So that can set aside. Sometimes also there's an unforeseen event that can occur. Okay? So there's something you guys never anticipated. So it has come and now it has made performing that contract impossible. It becomes now impossible to perform that contract. So in such a case, you cannot proceed with the contract, okay? Maybe you wanted to buy some clothes and let's say even the person dies, for instance. None of you are counting on that happening. So there's no one to really transact with. So that brings it to an end. But also, here is where we now deal with questions of force majeure. You remember? Force majeure? Yes, acts of God. Hapa na Ronaldinho, acts of God. Flood. It has flooded. Barabara imeoshwa na maji imeenda. That's an act of God. You never anticipated that that would happen. Okay? And that's gone. That deals with our termination. Now remember, we always say as lawyers that a contract is a wartime document made in a time of peace. A lot of people like to get into business or into transactions and they want to do it on good faith, you know. You're doing it on good faith. Sisi tunaelewana and you shake hands about it. That's all. It's a good thing to always act in good faith. However, contracts protect you from many, many things. One, the person you're contracting with can die, for instance. Okay? Maybe they're selling you land. They've now died, but you still want the land. That contract helps you to then say to the beneficiaries or the survivors of that person, ule mtu atakuwa appointed as administrator can come and continue with that transaction, all right? Sometimes people forget things, okay? Memory is not what it used to be. So you can agree with someone, 500K. Kesho anakuja nasema no, ilikuwa 5 million. Now you start having a back and forth. Why? Nothing was written. You guys just spoke and agreed. So it's always good to have a contract. A contract is not a sign of mistrust. It's just ensuring that whatever we are doing here together, let it just be in a format that can be easy to follow. So please, as you talk about the guys who have apparently been conned, a lot of people have been conned. What's your con story? What's your con story? How have you been conned? I'd like to hear from you. Please reach out and tell us, what's your con story? How have you been conned? And I'm going to just pick on some of those stories and highlight some of the most hilarious cons that people have experienced. But remember, this is Power Radio, Sheria Dive with me, James Onjeri, your host. Let's get some music.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Wengi wamejaribu kunieka mbali nawe, eti story flani madem, lakini penzi wangu form yangu tu ni wewe, tu ni wewe.
Form ni gani ni wewe? Form ni gani ni wewe?
Form yangu tu ni wewe, tu ni wewe.
When I'm super, you're gorgeous, I adore you. Regardless of hearing what they say, I see you, Renee, Ali, Kalia, studio all everything day. I do, you know, is for you. So I'm singing through these words to show you that I care for you. Oh girl, I'm loyal, so loyal. Oh,
wengi wamejaribu kunieka mbali nawe, eti story flani madem, lakini penzi wangu form yangu tu ni wewe. Nafasi nikupe mapenzi tele. Give me your time, don't listen to these people, no, they don't wanna see us together. Ebu songa, unave songa, I like the way you move. Watch how I say, man, whatever they wanna book, you know how we do, baby. Kunieka mbali nawe, eti story flani madem, lakini penzi wangu form yangu tu ni wewe. wanadai form zangu maklande every time you out this door. But don't believe him lest they come you red-handed, cause you know them people talk. So I'm reaching out to you, girl. Yeah, yeah. Mteja hapatikani, kwako ujumbe na wacha basi. We uko wapi, baby? Nipe fursa nikueleze. Yeah, 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 yeah. Wengi wamejaribu kunieka mbali nawe, eti story flani madem, lakini penzi wangu form yangu tu ni wewe. Tu ni wewe.
Form ni gani ni wewe? Form ni gani ni wewe?
Form yangu tu ni wewe. Tu ni wewe. Wengi wamejaribu kunieka mbali nawe, eti story flani madem, lakini penzi wangu form yangu tu ni wewe. Tu ni wewe.
Form ni gani?
Jivu with form ni gani? Form ni gani? Na leo form ni kuhakikisha uko na contract ukienda kufanya biashara manze. Usiingie tu huko unapea msee dona unatoka unasema huo ni msee mpoa namjua. Utakipata my friend. All right? Now, it's always important to get into agreements. Please consult a lawyer. Now, people sometimes wonder, what are you paying a lawyer for? Let me give you a story. There's a guy who was selling land, right? And another one wanted to buy it. So when they went to a lawyer told them, okay, I'll charge you ishamba ni X amount. Wakaona, ujamaa bana, ameitisha over 100,000, hiyo pesa ni nyingi bana. So they went to another guy who told them, mi hata natengenezanga hizo ma contracts. Wakatengeneza contract hapo ya 3 pages. 3 pages, imagine, to buy land of worth over $1 million. So anyway, they signed the contract. Then, watu wakakosana. Now the story is, let us look at the contract to understand what needs to happen here. My friend, the contract hata iko inaongea story ya kuuza shamba. It was a completely different thing. Which means now, the agreement that has been produced is useless. Sasa tuanze kuulizana, okay, so what did you guys mean? Imagine just being in court, wasting all that time. Simply because you did not go to a lawyer. Lawyers are people who've gone to school, they've been trained, they've dealt with contracts, they know what to look out for, they can advise you, they'll tell you this is a bad contract, this is a good contract. They'll tell you, you need to have this clause, you need to have this introduced. That is why whenever you are getting into a transaction, whenever you get into a business, whenever you want perhaps to buy land, always use a lawyer. There are many lawyers. You can find lawyers online. You can go even to the Law Society of Kenya and tell them, I'm looking for a lawyer to do this for me. And they'll be able to refer someone to you. And once you get the lawyer, the Law Society of Kenya has a search engine where you just go, ask the lawyer their full names on their ID. You search for them there. If they're a real lawyer and not another brand, a fake lawyer, okay? So if they're a real lawyer, you'll actually find their name there and you'll get their details. And then you'll be able to proceed on that. Now, I've just been looking at some of the stories for guys who have been conned. I don't know this con still happens. So this lady says that one day she was walking in town. She's walking in town, she went to the bank. And checking the bank, akapata mazia jalipwa salo. Hey. So now she walks out of the bank, she's frustrated. Then a gentleman just comes behind her. Now she's walking on the street. He's holding an envelope and says, Madam, ni wewe umeangusha hii bahasha? And she says, bahasha gani? The guy looks into the envelope and says, hey, madam, hii bahasha iko na 40,000. Umesema si umeangusha? Now the lady was like, 40,000 siwezi acha iende hivyo. Akasema, sasa what do we do? The guy said, unajua sasa mimi naona naweza kosea nikichukua hii pesa yote peke yangu. Si ukuje at least tugawane. Akasema sawa. So the guy was like, wacha tutoke hapa kwa barabara tuende mahali kumejificha kidogo. Taki watu wengine wajue tuko na pesa. Makes perfect sense. So off they went. Moja kwa moja, ana kwa ana, hadi Jivanji Gardens. This was in town, okay? Kufika Jivanji, the guy said, I can give you the envelope with 40,000. You go into the toilet there, uhesabu hiyo pesa, ugawe yako nusu na mimi niletea yangu nusu. The lady said, okay, that makes perfect sense. But the guy said, sasa mimi unajua siwezi kupea hiyo pesa juu unaweza toroka. Wewe utaniachia nini? Akamwambia shika handbag na simu. Shika hii handbag na simu na ushikilia hapo. The lady went into the toilet and I think we know what happened next. Juu alipata ni gazeti zimekatwa, alafu ameweka ka 50 bob. By the time anatoka nje, jamaa patikani, kuuliza hapo magads what happened, anaambiwa madam wewe hata ni mtu wa 4 leo, wewe ni mtu wa 4 umefanyiwa hii kitu. People just getting conned left, right and center. Remember, hakuna kitu ya bure, but important thing is whatever you do, you're getting into a transaction, you're trying to buy something, it's always important to have a contract. Contracts also help you to know where do you find someone. And remember, a contract is also evidence. In case someone does not do what they were meant to do and they've taken your money, you can actually take them to court based on that contract, and they can be found guilty of taking your money, and the court will demand that they refund you your money. And sometimes some of those cases can even be criminal cases where someone actually goes to jail. So that's Sheria Dive for today. We're going to be getting our song. We always have our exit song, Midnight Train. It was a pleasure just doing this with you. Thank you for everyone who's been able to share some feedback, everyone who's been able to just holler at us on the socials. This has been fantastic. Remember, always ensure at all times that you get into a contract and get a good lawyer who can advise you, because you can also sign a bad contract. All right? What you want to do is to sign a good contract. Your money is safe. And in case of anything, if something needs to happen, then you can make it happen. My name is Jameson Jerry and I've been your host. Thank you for listening. There'll be more music playing, so just keep it Power Radio. Remember, here we play music you probably never heard before. We like to focus on underground artists and music that might not be considered mainstream. And for all of us, manze, hustle lazima ijipe. Have a fantastic week and enjoy, and we look forward to Easter next week. God bless you.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion. Hii maisha ni safari, tunapita kama moshi, na kabla tuzame mchangani kuna kushinda na kufeli. Oh, inabidi ujijue tofauti ya mwalimu na mwanafunzi ni ujuzi na ujuaji. Oh, it's unbelievable that we make it this far. Undeniable, we see the promised land from afar, and it's so beautiful. No, they can't touch the fire, and you know it's not in vain. Steady tripping through the pain. Oh, man. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. On the midnight train. Siku zazidi badilika, mengi yazidi kunipita jama. Oh no, maji yalipozidi unga, hawakudhani tutafika. It's unbelievable that we made it this far. Undeniable to see the promised land from afar. So beautiful, they gon' know who we are. We keep on walking in the rain. Kuna blessings in the pain. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady, ready. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion, Zion. It's a narrow road to Zion. Nothing will ever deny us. Whatever it takes, keep on rocking. Whatever it takes, keep on moving. To Zion, to Zion, to Zion. Yeah. Rocking on the midnight train.
Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train.
Power Radio.